Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. This battle was sent in by HoS and has him leading Argwylon against the Dwarfs led by Barry the Irishman. This is a fairly short battle, but has some interesting moments worth inspecting. Argwylon is led by a Glade Lord with a Spellsinger with the lore of Beasts, a Branch Wraith, 6 units of Wildwood Rangers, 5 of which are rank 1, and 2 units of Wild Riders with shields. The Dwarfs bring Ungrim Iron Fist in charge alongside a Thane, 4 units of Dwarf Warriors, a unit of Longbeards with great weapons, a unit of Slayers, a unit of Hammerers, 2 units of Quarrelers, a unit of Handgunners, 2 units of Iron Drakes, and 2 units of Grudge Throwers. Alright, let's quickly take a look at layout over here. As always, with Argwylon, it's pretty simple. We've got a long and thin line of these Wildwood Rangers, and of course we've got the Branch Wraith and the Spellsinger right behind them. Glade Lord off to the side here, flying on the Forest Dragon, and then over here we have the Wild Riders with shields. The plan was right from the get-go to charge the Dwarfs. I think HoS was just expecting a boxed-up Dwarf player, so he wants to push right away, and you can see the order's already been given, and have these Wild Riders come in from the flank, maybe take care of artillery, range units, whatever it might be. So, pretty simple plan from Argwylon. Meanwhile, the Dwarfs themselves, they also have a pretty basic layout. Overall, they've got their front line of range units. They're probably planning on pulling them back right away. Right behind them, we've got the Dwarf Warriors. We've got the shorter range Iron Drakes right behind them. And then Longbeards with great weapons on one side and the Hammerers on the other, with Ungrim right in between them. Then we've got, of course, the Artillery and the Slayers. Now, it looks like the plan here, again, was to take sort of a defensive route, probably expecting a lot of ranged units, so having these Grudge Throwers to open fire and make sure that the Elves or Argwylon had to push forward, so they couldn't just sit behind and just keep taking shots from the Grudge Throwers. However, on seeing this, the Dwarf player really should have adapted right away. You'll see catapult shots going off immediately, but they'll be pretty ineffective because these lines are so long and thin, but a big failing on the Dwarf player's part is actually not adjusting to these incoming lines. The Longbeards with great weapons here should have been sent up there, and the Hammers as well should have been sent up there, creating a stronger front line. And these Slayers, meanwhile, having noticed these Wild Riders over here, may have been a good idea to push them over here. Just make sure that you're constantly shielding, adjusting your line a little bit to make sure if these guys come in, you're ready to respond right away. You'll notice, of course, the arrow did come in and hit one of the Grudge Throwers, did a little bit of damage, didn't take one out or anything, but, you know, just a little bit of hurt there. Obviously trying to take care of these Grudge Throwers for this long march up. And you'll notice now, again, the range units almost immediately having to be pulled back. They could have got maybe 1 or 2 volleys off, actually, before being pulled back, so I don't really agree with this move. Should have stayed there a little bit longer, having done that to start with anyway, or at least open fire on the Forest Dragon, causing a little bit of damage. So a little bit of hesitation here, you'll see. Not really sure which way he wants to go, pulling back and forth. And meanwhile, you'll notice over here, Earthblood does go down almost immediately. These Wildwood Rangers are barely hurt, so they're going to be fully replenished. So not a bad call doing it before too much damage is done. They do stop here for a little while. No need to do that. They could have been sent right in, and you'll notice, of course, the Glade Lord as well, firing into these Quarrelers over here, causing a little bit of damage. And these units now do start to cause a little bit of damage to the Elven front line. Meanwhile, back here, the Wild Riders are finally close enough to elicit a response from the Dwarfs, and I don't necessarily agree with what's going on back here. These Hammerers and the Longbeards with great weapons being sent back here, not the best call. It should have been the Slayers' duty to stay back here. The Grudge Throwers really were a wasted unit, and they don't require much protecting at this point, because once these lines meet, they're not going to get a lot of action. They're not going to get a lot of hurt in. So really it could have just been the Slayers over here and keeping the Longbeards with great weapons and the Hammers up front to assist with whatever might happen in front here. Now, you'll notice over here, Flock of Doom does go down again, just causing a little bit of damage, and as these shots come in from the range units, a bit of damage actually taking place here. So that's great, except I would have suggested focusing down on one unit, trying to get it to rout, maybe weaken the center completely. 1 or 2 units could have been destroyed before these lines meet, but unfortunately the lines do meet. And meanwhile, back here, alongside that Flock of Doom, we did get the Prey of Anathrema going down here, so that held down the Hammerers, making sure they weren't able to actually intercept these Wild Riders, giving them the freedom to move in right past them and take care of these range units, and that really is a huge problem. In fact, the Dwarf player could have actually pushed these Longbeards forward a little bit. You'll see a couple of these Wild Riders did get caught up, but if these Longbeards had been pushed up, these guys would have been stopped and prevented from diving right into these Quarrelers and causing a tremendous amount of damage here. Now you'll notice these other Wild Riders, they do take a longer path out, and they're planning on coming in from the rear into the front lines, and they do a great job here. So you'll notice these Wildwood Rangers are coming in from the side, doing a good flanking maneuver. These Corvers back there, their morale gets completely destroyed by these Wild Riders coming in, and then 1, 2, and 3 units take a tremendous charge from the rear, and they begin to crumble right away. So great move there, using the Wild Riders to, again, circumvent these Hammerers with that spell, and just go right around and go into the rears of the front line, completely devastating the front. And now just clumping in, coming in from all sides, and making sure these guys don't return. You'll notice the Flock of Doom goes down here as well. Again, just trying to cause a little bit of damage, and finally the Slayers are being brought in after the Forest Dragon dives in and causes a lot of damage to these Thunderers, making sure that they are unable to fire anymore, and also trying to just scare them off the field. So finally the Slayers come in, but you'll notice these Wildwood Riders, the Wild Riders do come in from the side, and they block the Slayers off, preventing a huge charge into the Forest Dragon. Now the Wild Riders will take a lot of damage from the Slayers, but this does a great job in helping keep the Forest Dragon alive for a little bit longer, keeping the Glade Lord up and running, and able to just sort of dive around with those beautiful jumping animations and cause a lot of damage. So great move there, pulling the Wild Riders in from the side there, preventing a great charge from the Slayers. And again, you know, these Quarrelers are pulling back, and they just need to open fire, try to take down the Glade Lord over here. In fact, from HoS, I would have suggested having one of these Wildwood Rangers sent off to the side here, just to quickly dispatch of these Thunderers and the Grudge Thrower. Meanwhile, over here, you'll notice the Wild Riders just getting into position, maybe taking a second to breathe, but they are planning on diving into these Quarrelers right away. So very quickly, this long, thin line of Argwylon has managed to surround the Dwarfs and cause a tremendous amount of damage. Some really great rear charges as well, did a great job breaking the front nice and easy and shutting down the ranged fire completely. Ranged fire can do a lot of work, and you almost can tell that the Dwarf player was expecting perhaps some Treekin, perhaps some Dryads, and hoping to have a lot of ranged enemy units to fire at with the Grudge Throwers, but unfortunately none of that came in. It's a great switch and bait there from HoS. Good job tricking the Dwarf player into thinking something else is coming onto the field. Now, ultimately, this short battle shows how important a few orders on the battlefield can be. The Dwarves may have come with a plan, but it was pretty clear from the get-go that it wasn't going to survive first contact with the enemy. Having failed to adapt, they crumbled almost instantaneously, and the Dwarf players, they have a tendency to stay on the back foot, but a little bit of aggression here could have cut down the Wild Riders and maintained the front and range units for enough time to cause damage to the enemy. Unfortunately, by staying on the back foot, Barry the Irishman just allowed himself to get completely destroyed and let Argwylon take the day. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep submitting your battle replays. I always think it's great to learn by watching other generals and see how they command, and great battles for community are always nice to watch and just have highlighted. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.